I waved goodbye to my grandma as she departed with the nurses to go to a care home. I'll come to visit you every month, I told her, and she gave me the sweetest smile ever. I loved my grandma a lot. She had looked after me all my life, but as she grew older, she started getting health issues. After that, since I was still a minor at 15, I had to move in with my nearest kin, and I had only one, my mother. It might seem strange to you, but I had never seen my mom in my life, not even once. But before we move on, like this video, hit that subscribe button, and activate the notification bell, and you'll get your favorite meal for dinner tonight. Trust me, it works. You see, my mom used to be a model, and when I was a baby, she had been careless with me. It was so serious that the police had to be involved. And ever since, I was in the care of my grandma. So having to live with her again was an unfortunate event indeed. She came to pick me up that same day, in the evening, and let me make this clear again. It was my first time meeting her or interacting with her. She never even called me, not even on my birthdays. The first thing she said when we met was, "Well, you're fat." That was so rude, and I was very hurt by that comment. My grandma took very good care of me, so I wouldn't say I was slim, but I was very healthy, not even chubby. And that was not it. She complained about my looks the whole time in the car on our way to her house. The only thing I got to know about her was that she was no longer a model, but an agent. Finally, when we arrived at the house, she made one last comment. "Now that you're with me, we're going to work on all your excess weight," she said. I just turned away and rolled my eyes. This is going to be a next-level nightmare, I thought as I entered the house. To be honest, my gut was exactly right about the living with my mom situation being a nightmare. Because at dinner, she served me very little food, and as the days went by, the portion of the food kept decreasing. It decreased to the extent that she was feeding me a pea-sized serving of every meal. It led to me being hungry all the time. And the worst part was that she didn't even give me any pocket money, so I couldn't even buy anything to eat outside. As a result of that, I started stealing lunches from my friends. I know there could have been other ways, but that was the only one I could think of at the time. One day, just like that, I was going through some lockers trying to find food or candy or anything that was edible. Suddenly, someone called my name out very loudly. "Lena." It was the school principal and a few other teachers. I could clearly see the disappointment and anger on their faces. "It's not what it looks like." I tried to explain to them and cried, but they were not willing to listen to me at all. "This behavior is not acceptable here," the principal said, and kicked me out of the school premises. After that, well, my life became a terrible horror movie featuring my crazy mom as the villain. However, the movie turned out to be not so terrible after a hero came along to save the day. One day, my mom brought someone new into the house. It was her boyfriend. She wanted me to meet him, but I was not excited about that at all because I thought someone who was dating a horrible person like my mom should be another crazy psycho who was horrible as well. But things turned out to be exactly the opposite of what I had assumed. It was because the boyfriend was, in fact, a very nice person. He treated me nicely and cared about me even more than my mother. From time to time, he brought me food from outside, secretly, because he knew my mom was feeding me way too little. Well, if you haven't already guessed, the good thing in my life, too, didn't last because one day when my mom's boyfriend was sneaking food for me, my mom caught him in the act red-handed and kicked him out of the house and even broke up with him. Around that time, my crazy mom had completely skipped giving me breakfast and dinner, and my days were passed by listening to my stomach growl. Because of that, I thought about resorting to my previous way, which was stealing to get food to eat. However, this time I didn't have school. That meant there was only one place I could steal food from, and that was the neighbors' houses. This time I decided to be more careful while breaking in and stealing as I didn't want to be found like before. For that, I went to my closet and picked out a black hoodie, sweatpants, and a beanie. I put those on and added a mask, and voila, I was ready to break in and eat. Every night when midnight arrived, I went out dressed like that, broke into my neighbor's home, and ate the food from their fridge. I would go to a different neighbor's home every night, and since it was just food, no one noticed or realized I was stealing. I went on with my life like that for a couple of weeks, and trust me when I say this, I didn't like breaking into others' houses and stealing like that. But at the time, it was a matter of survival. I had turned skinny and weak. Seriously, I had become so skinny that I could possibly fly if there was a strong wind. One night, just like that, I was at a neighbor's house sitting on their kitchen floor while they were fast asleep in their rooms. I was stuffing my face with their leftover dinner. I love when my neighbors have pizza night, I thought while munching on the leftover pizza. Suddenly, I felt like I saw some movement in the living room. "Oh no!" I gasped and quickly moved behind the door to hide, thinking my neighbors must have woken up. But when I looked through a crack of the door to see who it was, I was shocked and terrified. There were 2 burglars, not like me, real ones. They were dressed like me, with their faces covered, and were picking up all the valuables from the house and putting them in their bags. I was so scared that I almost screamed to notify my neighbors of what was going on in their house. But I instantly covered my mouth with my hands because I too, after all, was a thief in their house. I watched, terrified, as they wiped the place clean of all the valuables. I was so stupid that I didn't even think about escaping then and there. But then all of a sudden I heard a loud scream. It was Mrs. Slippers. She must have seen the burglars in action. In less than a second, her husband too came running out and turned all the lights on. He instantly called the police, but it was of no use. The burglars had already run out of the house and fled. Meanwhile, I just froze as I didn't know what to do. Immediately after that, the police also arrived at the scene. They started investigating and searching every corner of the house, and naturally, as you can guess, one of them came into the kitchen and found me. Since I was in such a shock, I couldn't say anything. Because of that, they instantly deduced that I was one of the burglars left behind among the 3. Seems like she's trying to protect her friends, one of the policemen said. They took me out, and the Slippers family saw me and recognized me but didn't say anything. Finally, after that, I tried to gather up some courage and explain myself. Mr. and Mrs. Slippers, I was not with those people who stole your valuables. Please believe me, I said, but they looked the other way and let the police take me to the station. I had to spend the night in the station jail, but, well, at least they gave me a donut in the morning the next day. It was better than having no breakfast at my mom's house. Talking about my mom, she did come to bail me out. I could tell that she was very disappointed, not because I was in jail, but because she had to pay the bail money. You're only here to make trouble for me, aren't you? She said as we got in the car and headed home. She also lectured me in the car while I just sat in silence. But inside, I wanted to scream at her and tell her it was all because she fed me too little. When we finally reached home, a surprise was waiting for me there. The boyfriend my mom had kicked out for giving me the food was back in the house. I mean, it was a good thing. He was nice to me, and more importantly, he cared about me. Despite all that, I felt like there was something fishy about him that I had no idea about. I have to figure out everything, I thought to myself, and instantly got into spy mode. I started spying on them and took notes of their every move. I was following them around, everywhere like a pro stalker, and they never even got a hint of it. However, they didn't do anything suspicious either. They either went to the mall or the modeling agency. Until one day, I followed them to a motel, which was just a couple of blocks from the house. What do they have to do with the motel when the house is so near? I thought. After that, they entered a room and locked the door. I have to know what's going on in there, I said to myself, and went around to the building to find a window at the back of the same room they entered. And what I saw in there was more than shocking. My mom was complaining about how she had to bear having me around with her boyfriend. Meanwhile, she was also pulling some stuff out of her face, which I thought was disgusting. In seconds, she pulled out something that looked like skin, but was in fact a mask. Who is she? I thought, and gasped, because she was not my mother at all. I wanted to figure out the truth, so I listened to their conversation very carefully. Let me starve her. She got in my way of getting the house and wealth. Her mom was ready to give up and hand over everything to me. She said, no, you should treat her better for now. The boyfriend replied, her grandma is in poor health. After she passes, the girl will have the house and wealth. He added, then we can get that from the girl. Double money. You're so smart. She replied and hugged him. They were just cons who were trying to get money from us, which scared me a little. After that, we can get rid of her and her mom in the basement. The boyfriend replied. After hearing that, I got so scared that I felt dizzy and stumbled and fell in the trash can nearby, which made a loud sound. Oh no, the cons must have heard that, I thought, and ran from there in a flash, making my way to the house. My first thought after running was to save my real mom from the cons and rescue her from the locked basement. So as soon as I reached the house, I went straight to the basement, and there she was, chained to the wall. There was my real mom. She looked very weak, sick, and pale after being locked up in the basement for so long. I wasted no more time and tried to unchain her, but then the cons showed up at the scene. Well, look who we have here, the con woman said. She had no shame or guilt in her face and was not even worried the slightest that I was aware of the truth. Now that you know everything, it's much easier for us. We can lock you both down here, she added, and told us that they just needed us alive so they could get the money. After that, they gave a very mean laugh like some supervillain duo and locked us in the basement and went upstairs. I was very upset and scared. I had no idea what to do, as there was no way out for my real mom and me. I just collapsed on the floor and cried while scratching the floor continuously, as if I had experienced a psychotic break. My real mom tried to console me. "I'm so sorry you got into this mess because of me," she said, but it was of no use as I kept on crying and scratching the floor gathering dirt. After crying for a while, I stood up and went to my mom. With all my strength, I tried to unchain her, and since the chain was very old and rusty, it came out. "Mom, be ready to run," I said, and started screaming out loudly. "Help! Is anyone there? Please help us!" I screamed. Hearing that, the Khan couple came down as quickly as possible, unlocking the basement door. "Stop shouting, you little rat," the con man said. They both looked very angry and irritated. I took that chance very seriously and gave them a surprise. Actually, I had scratched the floor before in order to gather dust just for that moment. I picked a handful of dust and threw it right in their eyes. They started rubbing their eyes and cursing me, but I didn't stay to listen. I took my real mom's hand and ran out of there. We locked the basement door behind us and wasted no time calling the police. The police came in quickly and we explained everything to them. "Don't worry, they'll be going in for a long, long time," one of the policemen said and took the cons away. After that, my real mom and I started knowing each other and formed a bond over cooking and eating a lot of delicious food. Thanks for watching. What's your favorite memory with your parents? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and check out other videos on the channel.